Well, hello there, and welcome to another Drake Council on Aging art tutorial. I'm Joan Turner, the resident artist at the Drake Council on Aging. And today we have something super awesomely special for you. I am so excited. I've been waiting to do this picture. I want to spill my hot cocoa. These are ghost pumpkins because they're white. Isn't that amazing how I knew that? So these are ghost pumpkins, and what you will need is a canvas. And if you have a DCOA art pack, then you have a canvas. You can paint actually on any size canvas you want. If you want a big humongous picture, use a big canvas. If you have one, you could use the canvas that came with your pack. You could paint on a board, okay, because we're using acrylic paints. The acrylic paints, you can pretty well paint on anything with acrylic paints. They're pretty versatile. Okay, they're also pretty permanent. They'll come off your skin, certainly, but they don't come off your clothes. Like this is a bleached art shirt, and the paint does not come off. Once the acrylic dries on the material, it's permanent. So it's not good if you didn't want the paint on there. But I have to tell you that I've bleached certain clothes that I really, really liked. So instead of throwing them out, I painted on them. Like I made them into flowers or hearts. My girlfriend came over with bleach spots on her dungarees, and she's like, "Can you fix these? Can you do something with these?" I said, "Sure." So I got some fabric paint and made like little hearts and flowers and stuff for her. So now she can wear them. But generally speaking, you want to protect anything that you don't want paint on. Okay, that means tables, floors, clothes, that type of stuff. All right, so you need a canvas. All right, a canvas or some kind of drawing surface. It can be any size you want. It can be wood. Not sure I would paint on plastic because that you could actually chip it off. I've tried to chip it off with my fingernails and was successful. So you will want paper towels. You will want palettes. Okay, this actually looks like a paper plate, but it's a palette. It's actually a paper plate that I'm using as a palette. And I have palettes, certainly. They have wooden palettes, plastic palettes. They have palette paper, which is kind of a waxy pad of paper that after you use it, you just tear it off and throw it away. Okay. But most people at least have paper plates around, so you can do that. Brushes, always small, medium, and large, right? And save your smallest one for a little bit of detail work. If in fact you're doing this on your own, because you can take a screenshot of this. If you have a Drake Council on Aging newsletter, there's a picture of this in the newsletter. Okay, so I am recording this, and if you find that I'm going too fast for you, because everyone paints at different speeds. So some people say, "Oh, you're painting too fast for me," which is understandable, especially if you're just kind of starting out. Halt the recording, pause it if you're watching it on YouTube, or you can pause it if you're watching it on Drake TV or BATV or GHAA website, because Drake lets us share with all those fine folks, and they're really very people oriented. So we appreciate you and thank you. Paint, you will need paint, right? So the paints that you will need, you always need at least black and white whenever we do anything, because sometimes you want to lighten things, sometimes you want to darken things. And in this picture, we're going to have some gray in the vase, and between these types of pumpkins, believe it or not, are called Cinderella pumpkins, and the spice pumpkins are the ones that are kind of long and thin. Okay, but these are Cinderella pumpkins because this is what her fairy godmother made her pumpkin coach out of. So it's a Cinderella pumpkin. Besides black and white, we'll need blue and green just a tad of yellow. We're going to get a little bit of highlight and brown. All right. If you are able to look really closely at this, the stems on this are kind of a greenish brownish color, as is the table where they're sitting. Okay, so we're going to do that. As with all the acrylic paintings we have done in the past, we're going to start from the back forward. Make sure you have some water nearby to clean your brushes. Okay, and without further ado, let us begin. Okay. So again, we're going to start from the back forward, which means we're going to do this blue, kind of looks like wallpaper actually, and the table where it's sitting on. Okay, so the blue, we're going to mix. We have blue. I'm trying to think while I'm talking, so you can understand my conundrum here. All right, so I'm going to take the blue. Now, typically what students do is they'll take blue and they'll start adding white to it, so they end up with a light blue. Go the other way. Start out with white and add the blue to it, because the blue is the stronger colored pigment. All right, so it's going to take less blue than you think to actually make a light blue. Okay, so I'm going to put some white, actually, a little bit, quite a bit of white here. And I have a big gallon jug here that you probably have an easier time and have a smaller container. Okay, so now you gotta put the cover back on. All right, so this is how much white I have. We're gonna drip down the, okay, that's how much white I have. And this background is relatively light. Okay, so to mix that kind of a light blue background, just gonna put, see if we can get to a little bit better here. Okay, so I'm gonna put just a little bit of blue. Okay, so see the ratio, blue to white. Okay, so in the end, of course, however much blue or white you want is what you're going to have, because you, my darlings, are the creators. Okay, so I'm going to try to get some of this stuff off the art table and move this way and this way, so you can see what I'm doing. If I can get closer, maybe not that close, so maybe we'll see the whole canvas. Okay. Here's my white and blue. Here's my hot cocoa. Don't try to attempt this without your hot cocoa. Okay, there's my hot cocoa. It's out of the flow zone. All right, so I'm going to take my large brush and I'm going to not take all of the white, because depending on what size canvas you have, it actually won't take that much to cover it. So I'm going to take about half of what I have here, okay, and move it over to a different side of the plate. And I'm going to dip into my blue and start mixing. Okay, so I'm going to put that plate down here. See? Can you see? Okay, now you kind of can. So I'm going to start mixing my blue over here. Now, I only put a teensy bit of blue in there, but it's actually already blue enough for me. Because again, I want that kind of to be a light blue. Okay, so now I'm going to paint about 1, 2, about 3/4, maybe more, down my canvas. So probably to about here. I'm giving myself a guideline. Okay, and then I'm going to see how I'm making nice even strokes here. All right, so make some nice even strokes. If you notice that there is some texture on my canvas, it is because I'm using a repurposed canvas. Okay, and what I mean by that is that this was actually a canvas that was donated to me, and it had a different picture on here, and I painted over it with gesso, which you don't necessarily need gesso. You could just paint over it with white paint, certainly, to cover, you know, the part you don't want, and just create a new picture over it. Okay, so you don't want to actually waste anything if you don't have to. Okay, so if you notice, I am doing my edges as well here, and the reason for doing the edges is that it gives me the option of framing or not framing my artwork. Okay, if in fact you have artwork that you seem kind of goes over on the edges of it, then if you wanted to exhibit this just the way it was, you could do that. Now, having said that, if you're going to do art as a gift or professionally, or just, you know, you're going to hang it in your own home, I actually think that framing them adds a nice dimension to them. So in most cases, if I'm going to keep the picture myself or give it as a gift, I'm more inclined to go ahead and frame it, unless someone says, please don't frame it. I have something special in mind for it. Okay, in that case, you would not. So as always, you know, you're the creator, you have the options. Okay, so I want good coverage here. Okay, so just make sure that there aren't any spots where there's bare canvas here. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more of this blue and mix it into the blue I've already mixed, which is going to give me a shade darker. So, and the reason I'm doing that is I want the canvas to go from light to dark, kind of give us a graduated effect here. Okay. Kind of nice, kind of nice. Maybe it seems a bit more down. There we go. There we have it. That looks pretty good here. Okay, so let's make sure everything is covered. Okay, make sure my edges are done. Okay, now I'm going to, while this is still wet even, if you take a look here, there's some flowers on the wallpaper in the background. But let me tell you that you do not need to put the flowers in. You could actually just make little curly cues, or you could just totally leave it blue. Okay, that would not be awful either. Okay, but I think I'm going to put in some of the flowers. So what I'm doing is just dipping into my plain white here with a small brush. And then I'm just going to paint in some flowers. And I will bring this closer to the canvas, to the camera, so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so can you see that little flower? Okay, and there's kind of a little pattern going on here. So I'm just touching 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, really simple. And then just kind of making this little curly cue for a stem here, and then some of these. Okay, so that's really easy. Okay, and you can put in as many or as little as you want. Okay, And they're kind of subliminal and in the background here. And so you can make some stems kind of playing around here. That looks kind of cool over there. There's another one here, little curly cues. You got to put another little flower up here. So I suggest that you play, that you have a really good time. Oh, I just realizing that I have the radio on. Okay, I usually do listen to music while I'm painting. I'm by myself. Well, even during the class, I can leave it on. However, not sure that the recording will be gracious about it here. So let's finish putting on some of these flowers, and then I think I will go turn it off. Okay, so these are really easy flowers to do. I am just literally dabbing, okay, and just making curly cues for stems. Okay, so really just play, have a good time, because if you're not having a good time, don't do it, right? Okay, so maybe I'll just put a few more of these on. And a couple more up here. You can put on as many or as little as you want. Remember that we're going to try and sketch pumpkins over this. So try to make it so that it's not like really, really, really bumpy. There we go. Put some more down here. You could put just the flowers and not the stems if the stems intimidate you. Are they just not fun somehow? Okay. So this is pretty cool here. Okay, I didn't put a whole bunch in through here because I know it's going to be covered by pumpkins. So let's give you a closer look at what's going on here. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to take some of these and add curly cue stems on here, and let's put it back on here so I can actually do them. There we go. And your stems can go any which way you want. You could have more than one stem on a flower. You could have just design. Okay, remember that when you're working on a piece, you know, typically there's something that you're using that's inspiring you. You know, picture you saw like these ghost pumpkins that really like that. But in the end, it doesn't have to look exactly like mine or anyone else's. It can be just totally yours. It's actually kind of nicer when it is. Okay, so I'm not even looking at the handout at this point. I am just partying over here. Okay, I'm going to look and make sure all my flowers have some kind of stem work. All right, so there they are. Okay, I'm going to take my brush and put it in the water. Okay, and then take this and kind of get it a little bit closer for you so that you can see and see what this background looks like here. Okay, so let me go and turn off the radio. Okay, so hopefully through the miracle of computers that was seamless for you. We're going to go ahead and mix this brownish green down here, and we're going to put it right there, which means I'm going to go back a little bit more. Okay. So if you have enough room on this plate, that's fine. If not, get another one. And we're going to mix green and brown. Now, that's black. Let's do green and brown. Okay, if in fact you don't have green, if you mix blue and yellow together, you'll definitely have. All right, and the fun of mixing it yourself kind of ensures that you're going to like the shade that you make. Okay, most of us are pretty dang lazy, and we buy them already mixed. And they come in like a zillion different shades. So don't feel as though you must mix. Although, if I were, in a lot of cases, I like to mix. Okay, so I have green fingers now. I do have a meeting tonight. Oh, God. All right, so here's my green. It may be a bit too much. And my brown. Okay, this is a burnt umber, but any brown will do. If in fact you don't have brown, green, and red, when you mix it together, it does make brown. Okay. Acrylic paints have a tendency to dry around the covers of your paint containers. Okay, so I'm going to, I want to clean off my brush. Okay, so paper towel. Right now, this is bluish, this greenish, brownish color is going to be darker than the blue I was using. So I don't have to worry too much about how clean I get my brush. Basically, just have to make sure all the water is out of it. So you don't want to water down your paints, because then you'll end up with something like a water paint, which, while that can be very pretty, it will not work out good on the canvas. Okay, so now I'm actually going to start with the green. When it comes to which color is stronger, they're probably pretty equal, but I'm thinking I'm going to take the green, and the brown might be slightly a slightly stronger color. Okay, so I'm ending up with this very brownish, greenish color. Let me continue to mix more aggressively, assertively down here on the table. Okay, so this is what I'm ending up with. And if I look at this, it's actually even a little bit browner. I'm going to go ahead and mix more brown in there. Okay, that looks pretty close. Okay, I'm actually going to add a little bit of white to it, only because it's really almost overpowering to me. So I'm going to take this little bit of white over here and just lighten it up just a little bit, just a tad. Okay. So see what's going on here? Okay, let's do this one maybe. Okay. And this is going to be relatively easy to do. Okay, so we're just going to go across the bottom like this. This could actually be a little bit browner even. Okay. But I'm going to do this first. Then I'll add a little bit more brown to it right on the canvas. Okay, so so what I think, I'm thinking I would like it to be a little bit browner. Yeah, so I'm going to take my brown and I'm going to use just brown. Okay, so I put a little bit of brown on my palette right here. I'm going to dip into it and just spread it right on the canvas and see how that darkens it right up. Okay, so see if I can hold it without messing things up here. Again, doing my edges is always a good idea. We like to have options. So where the two meet here, we want good coverage right there where they're meeting each other. Now I can put it back down like this. I have some white of the canvas here. So, you know, double check your work, make sure you're doing a good job. This is, I think, like a flat table. So this boundary wants to be relatively straight here. Okay, let me sit. Yeah. See, I can't straighten myself, which many people have tried. No avail. But I should be able to straighten my picture out. Okay. Right here and here. Ta-da! That looks pretty nice there. There we go. Listen. Oh, okay. I'll be liking you. Okay, so this is what we got. This is coming up high enough here. So check your handout. And like I said, it doesn't have to be exact, but seeing as how we're using it as a kind of, where do we go from here? Okay. So that actually, I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of liking it already. Okay, so what has to happen is that this needs to dry out just a little bit. And you can actually fan it. You could fan it with another dish if you wanted to. If you have a fan or a hair dryer, you could do that. Or you could just pause your recording and go have a sandwich. Okay, so I am going to go clean my brushes for a few minutes and put this into a hair dryer or fan, and then we'll be back. So let's go ahead, now that this is nice and dry, I got my cocoa, here it is, and we're going to put in this vase with the ghost pumpkins. You can actually use a pencil if you want. I'm going to water down some white paint. Not with that brush. Let's see with this little guy. I'm going to maybe I'll mix a little bit of brown in with this white, just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Now, I'm not suggesting that you use paint. You can if you want to. I would say use a pencil, which you can erase if your picture is dry enough and you want to. Okay, so about more than halfway, we're going to draw a line here. Okay, another one kind of down here. This is just to give ourselves some guidelines where this is going to go. Okay, then some down here like this. And this, again, if you want to stop and kind of practice some of this shape work, by all means, go right ahead and do that. Okay, yeah, put these little U shapes over here. Let's get these here. And I will pick this up in just a second. I can probably get an idea of what's going on here. This way. Okay, I'm going to kind of find out where the middle is here and give myself a guideline for down the middle. Then I can go ahead and do these shapes down here, which even, you know, they're relatively easy to make. I'm gonna say, you know, again, it might be advantageous for you to practice on a piece of paper first. Okay, so this will kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. Okay, so I'm even painted into the brown. Okay, so actually just giving myself some guidelines. And again, we don't necessarily need perfection here. But I want to say if your goal looks kind of fun, if your mind is kind of fun, that's good, that's fine. If you want it to be a little bit more on the accurate side, then go ahead and get a piece of paper or draw on the back of your plate and just kind of do a couple of these and see what you can do. And you will find that each time you will actually be better and better. Okay, so if you need to, go ahead, start the recording and go ahead and practice this shape. As I'm looking at this, I think maybe I could have made that a little thicker in there. So, so again, practice if you need to. So go ahead and stop it if you need to and practice a little bit, or actually go ahead, take your time and draw it right on this canvas. I think we're going to go a little bit thicker into here, Jones. Like this, good. And then like this. Let's bring this out a little bit more too. So I kind of just kind of whipped it on here. However, you don't have to. So just take your time. If I'm going too fast for you, like I say, pause. Or if on the other hand, I'm moving too slow for you, and you'll be amazed that sometimes I do fun and pain, those types of things, and I'll walk around afterwards to try to lend a helping hand in case someone actually needs a helping hand. And what I find is that they're finished ahead of me and have gone on, okay, which is not always a good idea. I want to say wait for me. If I'm going too slow, wait for me, because this way you'll know like the next step to take, and you won't have to go back and try and fix things a little bit. Okay, so we could, I suppose, go ahead and kind of place some of the pumpkins. But I'm going to say, let's go ahead and complete the bowl. Okay, so again, if you're ready to move on, let's go ahead and do that. And to do that, I'm going to actually, I'm going to paint it white, but I'm going to mix a little bit of brown and black in here to get this shadow color in here. And if you look at that, everyone knows that that's a weak bowl. However, if you go ahead and look at these shadowed areas in here, the kind of grayish brownish color, and then these highlighted areas whiter. Okay, so let's go ahead and mix our colors. And I'm going to say, let's kind of mix the darker color first. I'm going to do that, I think, with this white that I have on my plate here. And I'm going to take just a dab of the brown and mix it in over here. And mix a little bit more there. I kind of want an off-white here. But again, I think it's kind of a grayish, brownish color. So I'm going to now find some black, which is right here. And this is Mars black. I'm going to put just a dab, because that's probably all that's left in there. And needless to say, I go through mucho amounts of paint. I'm actually just not putting a lot of there, just a little bit. And just a little bit in is that right here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the black. Now remember that the black is going to be a way stronger color than the white right? So I'm going to put in those darker areas here. Okay? There's a darker area here where we see a little bit of depth in our bowl here. And remember, we can always go over these with highlight. So if it's not exactly the way you want it, let that be okay. Just for a moment. Okay, so I'm going to go under here. I'm not going right up against my line because I like a bit of a lip there. All right. Yeah, like that. And as I'm looking at this picture, this side is more in shadow, certainly, and the other side. So I'm going to build up some shadow here. Okay. There's also some coming down here. There's actually a little bit of blue in there too, which is kind of exciting. Okay. So then down here and here, some around here. Okay, so I'm adding this color, but I'm adding it in kind of chunks or shapes through here. Okay, one little lip here, so I'm not going to go right down to the end. So what I have here is a kind of bunch of dark stuff. This here, here. So you can see I'm holding this picture in my hand because I'm looking at it as much as I'm looking at my canvas here. Right, so I'm going to go ahead with a smaller brush. Okay, and now I want to begin to put in some of my white. And I can do that while this is still wet. See what happens there? That's kind of cool, except I have no more white left. Okay, so let's get some white out. White out. Maybe put it underneath. All right, so again, okay, now I have some white on my plate and I'm dipping into just the white. And I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these whiter areas here. Okay. So this looks kind of cool. I'm going to drag some of that brownish grayish color. Yeah. Well, that looks mighty cool. Okay, let me see if I can get close. Well, oh yeah, that works. I can get down here. Okay, so here, putting this in, this in, this in. Go here, here, and here. Okay, so that's done to look pretty good there. Actually, need a medium brush. Right? Of course I did. Good brush. Okay, so with that medium brush, I'm going to take some of this brownish blackish that I mixed over here. Okay. And I'm going to kind of reintroduce some of that here because my paint is dry. Okay, I can handle it. This. Okay, so we did the darker colors first, so we kind of know where everything is going. Okay, if you just cover the whole thing with white, you'll lose your guidelines, so your boundary lines. That's pretty cool here. This is what we got going on. Here's a good place to put it. Maybe over there. I'm going to take, mix a little bit more of my white, a little bit of black in here, and a little bit more brown. So I end up again with this kind of grayish brownish color. And let's put it over here. Nice. Almost like a bone color. Okay, and I want to use the smaller brush to get in defining lines here. Okay, so this is coming out like this, and this is coming out like this. So when you're doing something like this, that the edges are always going to appear just a tiny bit darker, because they're kind of moving away from us. They're turning away from us. Okay, this. Okay, now we're talking. Now we're talking. All right, and let's do this bottom part here. There we go. So this is probably the trickiest part of the picture, but you'll be amazed. You'll amaze yourself about what can happen. So let's bring this a little bit more even. If you have a shaky hand, supporting one hand with the other here, so that I have control, certainly. Anyone who tells you that we're not control freaks, totally not telling you the truth. Okay, so I'm looking at this. It might be a bit too round for me. So I'm going to take some of this green here. And take a little bit of corrective action. We don't want too much corrective action. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at you. Oh, golly gee whiz. That looks pretty cool. All right, so now I have to say we're probably ready for the highlights on here. Okay, so I'm going to take my medium brush and I'm going to look over here and see that a highlighted area is over on this side. So I'm going to go lighter here. And I already had some of that gray on my brush. So I just kind of dipped into the white here. And if it's not coming out white enough for you, just kind of dry off the excess paint and then dip back into your white. And then just kind of come in here once again with the whiter paint. There we go. I was so excited to do this piece because I kept anticipating this, that we would have these areas that would have these wonderful areas of highlight. And because this is primarily a kind of a white bowl, if you will, the highlighted sections in it are just totally awesome. Okay, and we know where we want those highlights. All right, So this light source is definitely coming from the left. Okay, so I'm taking my highlight and brushing it across here. Same thing here, brush your highlight across. And if your paint is drying quickly, and it is in my art room here, I wet the brush a little bit and then just dried it off with a paper towel. You don't want to water down your paints to the point where they're no longer acrylics, because you don't want them to behave like a watercolor on your canvas. You want them to behave like acrylics. Okay, so here, like this. So I have quite a bit of highlight going on over here. I have to say, I absolutely love it. And this is what I'm looking at for inspiration. Okay, so if you want anything whiter than that, go ahead and put it on now. And I'm going to put a little over here. Then I'm going to, once again, give a little bit of highlight here, a little bit of highlight around here, and then again around here. All right, now you'll notice that this part right here is not done at all, okay? Because I want that to be all white, I think. So I'm brushing out a few of my strokes here. A lot of people like to see the brush strokes in their work, and I do like to see them, but only up to a certain extent. I'm more of a soft, blended in type of person. Okay, so I'm going to take my smallest brush at this point, and I'm going to begin putting in these highlights here. So I'm using the smallest brush that I have. I'm supporting one hand with the other, coming around this edge. And I know you can't see that great. I'm going to pick this up so that you can see it. Okay. See where I'm putting it? Right where the rim is. Okay. And that would be like right here. So right where the rim is, I'm putting pure white there. Want to really round off these corners a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to have to pick up this canvas. I apologize. Your hand has a very small comfort zone, so I kind of need to turn it around here. Let's see if we can get in camera. Some of this. This art table is 8 by 4 feet, and I continually run out of room. Okay, so I'm using my baby finger to rest on the canvas. And to have some control here of where this is going. Okay. Ta-da. So I'm going to hold it even closer to here. I apologize because I know you can't quite see it. Okay. Now I have a highlight. I have a highlighted lip here, and I almost lost my cocoa. Woe is me. Okay, this, and then under here I could go darker again. And I'm going to finish putting in the rest of my highlights, and then I'll look at it again and see where I need to, if anywhere, put in a darker. This is some highlight here that we can put in. I'll put a little bit here. Okay. And see that's the bottom here. Okay. As I'm looking at this, I'm trying to decide where does it actually need any more dark areas. And what I'm doing here is looking at this handout and comparing the two, right? So I see darker under here than what I have. This looks darker here to me. Okay, right there. Then what I have over here. So your eye is always kind of making comparisons. So once again, I'm going to take a little bit of black, a little bit of white, a little bit of brown. Okay, I'm going to end up with that dark grayish color. Maybe I need to go a little darker. Who knows? Okay, so now, oops. So now I can go darker under here. Okay, so I'm going to go a little darker under here and here. This. Now, doesn't that give it something really cool to nice contrast in here? Okay, so I want to go a teensy bit darker here. So I'm just going to run this right down the edge. So I have it a little bit darker. I'm going to put a little bit more under here. A little bit more under this one. There we go. Just pull it down just a little bit here. Yeah, I'm liking it. And we want a little bit more darker, I think, here. There we go. There we go. You want to take this little bit of white and come around the corner just a little. And just that little bit around the corner will round out your base. Okay, let's see here. Do we need anything else? Okay. Let me sit down. That looks pretty cool, actually. Yeah. Even to this day, it kind of amazes me. Start out with this blank canvas and end up with a picture. Just picking up this line a little bit here. It looks a little funky. Like I said, if your lines look funky, you don't mind them, that's okay. But this guy is got up. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Any more bumps there? You know, I look at it head on, it looks one way, then I look at the screen and it's like, oh, I didn't notice that bump was there. So it's good to see him in reverse. Makes you a better artist. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you do everything well except one part, then at least you know where you need to improve or where you need to do the work. So, you know, let your mistakes be okay. Let it be okay to have a mistake. Okay, so I'm just I call this actually kind of finished work. Like after you're done painting everything on here, you kind of look at it and you go, oh, well, this looks like this could do that. And this looks like it could use that. This could use a dab. But in the end, you know, kind of get on there, right? The golden baby. Okay, so we're going to do what I did before, which is draw on the pumpkins. Now, again, you know, pumpkins are basic. They're pretty basic. They're pretty basic circles. Okay, they're not total circles. So, if I look at this one is kind of edge over here, which I'm not really crazy about. So I would either put it in front of it a little bit or behind it. And I think we're going to go in front. And it just has to be in front just a little bit like this. And I'm going to put the bottom here. And again, you do not need to, you can draw this on with pencil. You do not have to paint this on. You do not have to do anything that stresses you out. You don't even have to put this pumpkin on there. I'm going to put this pumpkin on there. I like that little guy. Okay, so here's one pumpkin. Ta-da! Oh, maybe you can't see it there. But here's my pumpkin. And again, basic circle. Kind of flattened out a little bit more of an oval, maybe. Okay. Okay. This pumpkin's on the top. I know how high up I want it to go, which is right about here. So I'm going to put this little tiny dot there. But I'm going to start with this pumpkin in the front. This pumpkin in the front here. Okay, so now, let's see if I can get closer, so you can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, so I can see what I'm doing. If I want that to come up about there, that means this pumpkin is kind of offset. You see offset, kind of in the middle. Come here. So I'm using my eye to kind of measure where in the bowl he is. I say he because guys are pumpkins. Guys are little pumpkins, aren't they? Okay, so here I'm going to put this one right here. That's a pretty big pumpkin. Right, then there's one back here. And again, you know, if yours are not exactly like mine, or you don't want yours exactly like mine, there is absolutely no reason on earth that they have to be the same. Okay, I am going to take this pumpkin face this way. Okay, but again, these pumpkins are just circles. Okay, so if I were to draw right through this one, you can see a circle here. Okay, and then oh, we have one way back here. Right? Usually artists will do 3, they'll do 5. They don't typically do 4. So I was kind of wondering about this one. I only saw 4. Why 4? But now I see this one way down here. Basically, have this guy here. I think I'm going to put my fifth, because I pretty well covered that in. I'm going to put my fifth one over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Okay. Okie dokie. So now I have pumpkins galore over here. So I'm going to do what I did before, and that is pick the darker areas. Okay. And I'm going to use this same paint for now, just to give myself guidelines. All right. So on this guy, the stem is over here. This guy is over here. All right. This one is kind of on the other side of the pumpkin, so you won't worry about that one. And this one kind of can't see at all. All right. So yeah. So now the reason that I decided I needed to know where those were, because I need to know how to section my pumpkin off. Okay, and they're kind of going to end up looking like basketballs here, right? Which is okay for now, because we're just looking for guidelines. This one's going to do this, and this. And we'll get a more pumpkin-y shape afterwards. This one's coming on the edge like this, this. Okay, and like I said, I have one way back here. It's actually not in the picture because I don't have that one down there. I suppose I could. Nah, I don't want it in there. We'll put it. So make your decisions now at this point in time, because you don't want to try and just kind of change it afterwards. Okay, so these are my pumpkins. You can see that there's also one down here in the green. All right, so in this green, we actually need to, we're going to end up painting him white, only so that we can cover the green. Now, I'm going to do this kind of white over here. Let me give you a close-up. Right. Again, you need to pause. Go ahead and pause. I'm recording here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paint on sections of this pumpkin. Okay, and you'll notice that I'm painting the direction of the pumpkin. I'm not just going around. I'm actually painting pumpkin sections, also getting a bunch of other stuff. Okay. And so I want to do this for now. Okay. I'm leaving a little bit of space between the sections, so I kind of know where they're going. But see how that kind of looks like a pumpkin already? So now I need the color that goes inside on these sections of the pumpkin. So I need to decide Should I make that pumpkin bigger? I could make them bigger. Let's not make them too much bigger. I'll throw them out of perspective. Okay, we better leave him alone. Leave him alone, Joan. Okay, so he's overlapping this just a little bit, just enough so that he doesn't create an artistic faux pas. Okay, which is a no-no, artistically speaking, and edge-to-edge kind of tangent. Okay, so as I look at these pumpkins, I have a slight bit of yellowy with them. They also have that grayish color, especially this one at the bottom. That's this grayish color that's in the vase here. So let's go ahead and mix the darker color. Okay, put my drink out of the way. So I'm going to take the white that I had using a medium brush, drying off my medium brush. And I'm going to put, I'm going to take some of this white here and put it here on the plate and pick up a little bit of the brown because I just want to create a little bit darker so I can get the sections. But I also think I want just the smallest dab of yellow here. So I have a little bit of yellow. Okay, and I'm just gonna put a tiny dab out there. Okay, and only because I don't want someone to look at the pumpkins and go, oh, those pumpkins are yellow. I want them to know that they are indeed ghost pumpkins. I'm just taking the smallest bit of yellow and see how it just gives it just a little bit of light. That's all I'm really looking for here. So now I'm going to go back and put in my section here, here, my pumpkin, here. Okay, and then I will pick this up yet again so that you can see what I'm doing. A little bit of color here. Kind of nice. Nice. I'm liking it. Okay, I'm going to do same here. Okay, and again, I'm painting in towards the center of my pumpkin. I'm not just making this round blob on my canvas. Okay, if you don't feel that you have enough control with the bigger brush, go with a smaller brush. Okay, and I get in close over here. I think I'll go with a smaller brush. Okay, little bit of control freak here. Works out well. Works out well for our pumpkins. Okay. So I'm coming right up against my vase here. Okay, I like it. Picking up, let's see. Let's pick up a little bit of our brownish whitish color that we had before here. Like right here, brown with white in it. And I'm putting it in the sections of my pumpkin. And you can't even see it. Therefore, we're going to go darker, darker. There we go. Let's try that. Success. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay, so again, painting out and painting in. We're never just globbing on things here. We're always looking for direction. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and cover that middle just a little. I didn't cover it completely. I can still kind of see it. See what I did? Okay. So let's go for, and I am going to mix a little bit of this brown and white yet again. A dab of yellow in there. There we go. Oops, I just realized. Okay, so this is white, brown, yellow. Okay, and I am looking to get in some of the sections of my pumpkin. I'm going to come around the bottom, doing this, and I'm actually just creating probably more guidelines. You want to kind of look at it that way. Okay. It would help use the right. Let's get a little closer for you. Coming down this way. Okay, so again, kind of, you don't want it to have a real look to it, which means rounding out your edges. All right, so this doesn't just come out this way, it's coming around and shaping our pumpkin. Okay, and then I'm just taking the whitish yellowish mixture, and when the paint is still wet, going over it, and this glove of paint right there. Sorry, I can fix it. Here, this. So in the creases, I'm putting the darker color. Okay, and then I'm using the whitish yellowish colors around it like this. Okay, and again, you know, I'm not just globbing colors on here. I'm actually going in the direction of my pumpkin sections here. There we go. There's pumpkins. Really awesome. So just kind of perfecting our sections a little bit here. There we go. Go this way. And this one's going this way. Okay. That's actually looking really dang good. Okay. So these seem kind of, I want to blend them a little bit more so they look more like this. Okay, so I'm just going to take my brush and very lightly go over them. I don't want to blend them out all together. I want to blend them in. And there we go. And this guy could use a little bit more contrast here. Let's put that in. All right, see again there. Ghost pumpkins. That is so, I'm so excited. I'm still excited to use that. Okay, so I'm using pure white to put in the highlighted areas. Okay, which remember that we're assuming an up prefer a less light source. So that means the highlights on the pumpkin are going to be on the higher left side. A little bit here. It's on the top of the pumpkin. We might take a towel. There it is. Okay, now just blend some of this in a little bit here. Kind of really liking this. Okay. This. Take this color. I have to liking this. Okay, sure. Anything else to it? What a student said to me just today. She said, one of the hardest things she said for me to do is to know when to stop. And I cracked up laughing. And I said to her, well, I said, you're probably thinking that changes with time. I said, but I still don't know when to stop. You're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Going. And then before you know it, they were kind of a little better before. So if you think time to stop, then stop and take a look at it. Take a look at each channel. See if in fact you have enough on it. Okay, so that pumpkin is to me. So let's show you two. So you can see. Right, so we're going to follow the same procedure for the pumpkins at the top, right? And again, that procedure is kind of putting the dark areas in first, so we kind of know where they have to go. Okay, so the dark areas are the white, brown, and yellow. Okay, and make it as dark as you need to be able to see it. And of course, we end up blending some of it out. So don't be afraid to go forth and conquer. Okay, so these this will die. But let's go ahead and do them anyway. I'm going to round out these shapes, bring them in. Round them out, bring them in. This. Okay. Now again, you see the dark is actually in the middle. Again, we're going to end up blending some of this. So we want that on there kind of relatively fast. But when it's still wet, we want to do brown and yellow through here. Mostly white. Let's do white. Yeah. Let's do this. All this is kind of wet. Maybe it's all the way. Maybe it's dry. Okay, let's see here. I don't, why it's fine, but it is. Okay, so let's bring this in. This is the dark of my around the middle here. Actually, that looks pretty good too. I am going to take this very small brush here and brush in some of this, because what I was trying to do was blend it, but it's pretty dry in there. So I'm going to just re-wet it. Usually, if there's something going on with your picture that not crazy about, there usually is a way to fix it. And I hesitate to use the word "let's fix it" because in most cases, and I don't know if you remember Bob Ross, but he used to say "happy little accidents," and for the most part, that's kind of what they are. When you look at them, you go, "Oh, okay, that's not too shabby at all." Okay, so what I did is I just kind of wet the darker parts so that I could blend them in to the lighter parts. Because, like I said, I'm more of a blend person than a texture person. And I mean, there are times when I want texture, certainly, but I like the idea of them being blended here. So I'm going to take this. Remember that our light source is coming out from the left. I'm going to put some light in highlighted areas like this. Okay, which is very cool. Okay, and some here like this. This picture is as much fun as I think it would be. Okay, so again, I'm going to just lightly covering it because I wanted to see where it is, but I'm actually going to put some green in there. Greenish, brownish stem color in there because I know that. Okay, okay, so let's. Okay, so what I'm doing is actually, it's a pretty kind of outlined look here, which I'm not really crazy about. So I'm going over some of these lines here. They're showing up and getting them to look more the way I want to. So if you have a lot of dark lines and you don't like what they're doing, paint right over them. You are the creators. You're the boss. Someone says, you're not the boss. These pictures are the boss. I totally love that. So I'm going to lighten this guy a little bit. And I did kind of go over my area here, even though I tried really hard not to. But easily fixed, easily fixed. Okay, so I'm now, if I look at this, there's more highlight at the top, same way as there was with this one. Only the highlight's going to go here on this one. The highlight went on the top on this one. Okay, so even though this is going to be at the top of the pumpkin, it's not going to be exactly the stem is. This one was. This one, the highlights were right here where the stem is. Okay, but this one is going to be up here. The highlights are going to be over here and kind of at the top of, but not where the stem is. So I don't know what's a good way to say that. Okay, we have a little bit of highlights over here. It's kind of catching the light there. A little bit over here. And something here. Okay, I'm going to clean the excess on the brush. Blend. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Okay, let's do the rest. So now that we have our procedure down pat, we can move a teensy bit faster here. Okay, for those of you who are a little bit impatient, like Joe, move a little faster. So mixing this darker area. Well, that really darkened it. Guess what I do is I put a tad of black. All right, so yeah, this one's coming. This, and like I said, now that we kind of have the procedure down pat, can go ahead and make these sections even. It can kind of buzz right along here. Okay, good. This one's coming here, and this one's way over to here. All right, like it. Okay, so once we kind of get that done, then you want to switch to your yellowy kind of pumpkin color here. It's important that you be able to see one pumpkin from the other. Some people think once they get that pumpkin color on it, that's it, and they're golden. But we certainly need to be able to see that one pumpkin begins and the other ends, right? And the way that we do that is through contrast. Here's the light up against the dark. You can see that really well because the way the contrast is. So in order to see one pumpkin from the other, something has to be different. Something has to be darker. And this is another one. Put it against the edge of the plate here. The base of whatever is the correct way to say it. You may say it any way you like. Okay, so I'm pointing towards towards where the step is going to be. Right on. Let's put it right there. Let's see. Put it thing right there. Okay, so let's begin. This is going to be where my stem is going, right? Then my section is going to go here, 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 yeah, like this, this. Okay, this guy. Yeah, I know I'm talking to myself. I'm just kind of trying to decide where one pumpkin should be, and I actually changed the direction. Let's okay. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of this right here and put it here. So now, this, and this over here. Okay, this guy is coming here. This one is coming here. And so we're looking at the sections again of the pumpkin. Okay, so these sections, pumpkin, doing this, I want to define them. I want to know where they are, where they're going to be. So even though a picture can look like it's very kind of spur of the moment, it definitely planned out. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of that yellowy whitish color. Okay, so I have white, some yellow in there, mostly white. Okay, and a little bit of brown, a little bit of brown here. Now I want to put in my highlights the same way that I did with the other pumpkins. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just put that there like this, and I'm going to move on to some of the other pumpkins. All right. So once again, I'm going with the dark in here. And again, there's a pumpkin back here that I just kind of decided to put in there because I didn't want to have 4 pumpkins. I wanted to have 5 pumpkins. So I put that guy in there. And this one had a little bit more contrast down here. All right, so to my dark pumpkin in the background, again, we need to have some highlight here. So we're going to put the highlight in the upper left side. Yeah, he's just kind of hidden back there. So he doesn't need that whole bunch of full work on him, but he does need a little bit of yellow over here. There it goes. So let's leave him there for now and see. Okay, there's another pumpkin back here. And this one, you don't quite see the stem either. So we're going to go with just kind of the yellow in here. Okay, and remember that this yellow is mixed with white and a little bit of brown in it. And a little bit of brown is actually creating the sections here. Okay, so I'm going to make them even more pronounced here so that you can see them. Okay, I'm going to make them a teensy bit darker as we come up against the other pumpkin here. Okay, because again, we want to know where one pumpkin starts and the other one ends. So let's give us a little bit of highlight here. Again, upper left. There we go. Blend this in just a little down here. This pumpkin over here. Blend work. This little guy here. Gonna have some highlight. And again, that little, just that little bit of highlight up against that pumpkin actually makes it show up even more. Okay. Right, so I'm going to do a little bit of a close up so you can see what's progressing. And let's do a check with our source document. So we are totally getting there. Okay, we have one more pumpkin. Okay. All right, let's go for it. Oh, My phone line is in my bowl of water. I'm surprised the whole computer is not short circuit. Pull it right out of here. So we only got the recording. Oh yay! Okay. I guess we won't. It's because I haven't. Okay, let's go forth. All right, so again, let's follow our basic. It's been working out really well. Our technique, dark first, put the shadows in first over here. And I'm doing white and brown. If you can, but we don't want the green there. Okay, so that being the case, let's clean this brush off of it and start over. Okay, so we have grabbing some white over here. Then I'm putting some brown. Now instead of black, which is giving us that little bit of grayish color. But again, we didn't want it to be grayish, brownish color. Okay, so now, oops, I just dropped our source document. All right, so let me not stick my face. Okay. Okay, so let's get this pumpkin in here. This guy, okay, like this. And we're going to put another one here and another one here. And let's do this way over here. And don't worry about it. If you go over your white a little bit here, it seems easy enough to kind of fix it. So we're good. Okay, so remember to paint. I'm going to take the white and the yellow again. White, yellow, a little bit brown. Okay, to actually paint the pumpkin color here. Remember to paint the sections. We want it to look like a pumpkin. We want this pumpkin to look like a pumpkin. Okay. I'm going to take just the white now and some highlights. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let's take the dark once again and maybe redefine some of those sections. Okay, we could use a little bit more brown here. All right, so I want one here. Okay, and again, while the paint is wet, is the easiest way to kind of do this. Okay, and when it comes to coming up against the other pumpkin, again, there has to be some change in values. And I mean, it can even be the same color if you want it, but it has to be a darker shade of that color or a lighter shade of that color. But it has to be different, or else you will not see your pumpkin. You won't see where one pumpkin begins and the other one ends, which if you, maybe you do want that. I mean, depends on what kind of pumpkin you make. Okay, so I want a little bit of highlights here. want to be able to see those sections a little bit more here. Okay, good. Let's see this one a little bit more. Good, good, good. And this one like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's give us a little highlight here and here, here. Okay, I'm going to give this guy a little bit more highlight in his upper left side. Same here. When acrylics dry, they can have a tendency to dry a little on the flat side. And by that, I mean the color can be kind of flat. And if you've ever seen oil paintings, they have a little bit of a sheen to them because there's oil in the paint. And the acrylics actually relatively flat water-based paint. However, most of the acrylic paintings that you see actually do have a nice sheen to them, because after you're finished with them, you can put a nice varnish, a nice glaze varnish, glossy varnish over it, and it'll give it a nice sheen. A little bit of a bump there. This is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the tutorial, this is a repurposed canvas. So some of the bumps are built in. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, I'm looking to see if I can see where all my pumpkins are, where they start, where they end, where they begin. And this pumpkin is a little bit bumpy here, so I'm just going to go ahead and unbump it. And the way that you do that is paint over the bumpy parts that you don't like. Have to do a little bit more highlighting. And with the highlighting, I'm using just the white paint here. Okay, just the white paint for the highlighted parts. Okay, this is another section right here. Okay, more white. Another one here, here, and here. Okay, now I'm leaving this part relatively dark so that you can see, again, one pumpkin starts and another one stops. We have a vase or a vase, whichever you have pumpkins. Okay, now there is a scarf down here. I'm going to say, for the sake of this tutorial, I mean, you could put it in. You could certainly draw it in. It comes around the base like this, and then around here like this, and it comes down this way, falls in the front here, this, and then like this. If in fact this is going to be an issue for you, like it's going to traumatize you, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, just leave it, because it doesn't really make or break the picture. Actually, you kind of need something over there to balance off the picture, but it does not have to be certainly. A pumpkin, can be something else, right? Can be a different shape now. Anything you want it to be, actually. But let's just say that if you're really patient and you want to tackle that, by all means, go ahead and do that. If not, okay, then don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to put it in here. Just going to start it. Okay, this is around the back here. This is it coming forward, like this, like this, like this. And then it's in the front a little bit, like here. All right, and then we're going to just let that dry while we're working on our stems. And like I said, if you don't want to put this in at all, you certainly do not have to. You definitely are the creator here. So I'm actually just going to kind of put it in here like this. And then for those of you who want to go forth and conquer here, you can do that. For those of you who don't, you don't have to. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of get the stuff in there for now. Okay, so let's go and do our stem work. Now, if you remember at the beginning, the stems are going to be green and brown. Okay, we actually made some green and brown, which is long since dried. Okay, so I do have some green here that's not quite dry yet, but I do not have any brown that is still dry. So I'm going to put my medium brush in the water. And I'm going to put just a dab of brown on my plate. I'm going to squeeze my body over this way, move this back so you can see what it is I'm doing. Okay, so here I'm taking the green and adding the brown to it so that I end up with a very brownish, greenish color. All right, so that's the kind of brownish, greenish anyway. Maybe I need one to get lighter. Okay, so that's pretty much what I think I want there. So I'm going to take this and actually, I don't know, water it. Okay, I'm just making it thinner, thinner. And take your thinnest brush, and I'm going to add some, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to add a stem here. And I'm wondering if I can do this closer. Just kind of hold it. Okay, so I want to do this. Okay, I'm going to go browner. I need to go browner here. This, like this. And then I'm just going to come out like this. Yeah, like that. Okay, so in your handout, there's a lot of stuff going on with these stems. You do not need to do that. You don't have to get that invented with them, but you're certainly welcome to if you would like to. Okay, you can take this, you can throw it out here. I'm going to put a little bit more brand, I think. And I'm going to take my stem, bring it down here, and do these to it, and then like this to it. I think I could actually do this. So actually, I'm just playing around here. I'm just letting my stems kind of go off and do their own thing a little bit. Okay. Okay, so you can do that to your heart desires. Or you can just put just a plain stem, just a very plain stem here. You don't have to get real inventive. Okay. And your stems should be brownish greenish color. These don't necessarily have big leaves on them, but I have seen pumpkins that do have big leaves on them. So again, feel free to do your thing. Yeah. Okay, so I'm holding my one hand with the other, just kind of giving myself some, I'm resting one hand on the other. So I can put my hand here, rest there, and still have a little bit of control. Okay, let us go and do, okay, I'm using my brownish green again. And actually, it looks better when it's more brown than it is green. It seems to. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy in the middle here. I'm just going to dab right there. Kind of dab things a little. And again, I'll show you this close up so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I'm dabbing in the middle, but then I'm kind of moving in the direction of the sections here. Okay. So this little guy is going to kind of come around here a little, and come up around here a little. So I'm not really planning it out too well. I'm just kind of seeing where the brush wants to go. And this is kind of a dry leaf that's on there. Looks like another kind of dry leaf over here. Okay, and just let them rip, let them roll. Okay. So this is kind of the finished one, the detail one here. Okay, this one is coming this way and this way. There we go. Once you get the right direction, you can kind of feel it. Oh yeah, okay, that's it. That's where I want to go. Sometimes. Yeah. So this one actually has quite a bit of stuff going on here. So how much you want to put in there is totally up to you. But I'm going to, just for the sake of having something different going on, I'm going to go ahead and really let her rip. Okay, let's do this again. That kind of coming around and doing one of those. Bring this around here, and I'm gonna kind of put a leaf on there, kind of a dried leaf, I guess, but it's really just kind of coming around and doing its thing here. Okay, so I'm just really, these are kind of really dried out stems and just kind of hanging there. Okay, let's do one more, which is this one. Okay. All right, so this guy is on a profile, so it's on the side, and you're really not going to see the front of it too much. So I'm going to kind of do this. It kind of comes around here like this. So again, kind of play a little bit with these. They don't have to be perfect. They actually look better if they're not. So this one, I'm going to bring it way over here. That. So these are my stems, and I have to tell you, the stems are fun. You know, most of this is the stems. Okay. So for those of you who are not putting in this hanky, you are all set. For the rest of you, get out white paint. We're going to put some detail on our hanky here. Okay, so I'm actually going to take some of this background color, which is this over here, that we mixed right from the first moment. And I'm going to put some of that over here because we want some of that hanky has lace on it, which means that you can kind of see through it a little bit. So I want to very lightly kind of get that on there. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of transparency there. And this part, take off because that's not transparent. That's where our base is. Okay. So going to make this edge a little bit of a scalloped here, a little bit scallopy. Okay, same thing in through here and up and through here a little bit. Okay, so now we kind of have a area and this area, I think I don't really want it see through here. This I do. Okay, so I'm actually just making this a very light green down here so that it looks like I can see through the hanky. Okay, so I'm going to take my white now, so just pure white here. See, I want to show you what I'm doing. Okay, so just pure white. I'm gonna go over this part of the hanky because I want it to be white. Thank you very much. Here and here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and make this part a little bit darker because it kind of comes around the side of that. I'm going to make this border here a little bit darker. And I'm also actually taking my brush and just kind of drawing it here because I want this edge to look, or you could actually just dot it. Maybe that's easier to do. That gives it a little bit of a lacy look. So we definitely want that lacy look here. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and just dab it right along the edge here. Okay, a little bit of the green in here, just to give it a little bit more shadow. We actually want to see just a little bit of the shape of this vase back here. Let's get the vase here. Okay. It looks pretty good. Get that back in. Then, and again, you know, let's just get some detail in here. And actually, like I said, I'm just kind of dabbing at this point. Just kind of dab along here. So it gives it a little bit of a lacy look. this, a little bit of color back here, a little bit of lace, up to top to top. Little bit of lacy look over here. This is when you could really use your dotting tools. Get our dotting tools out. Okay, let's get a little bit of highlight here. So you really just making some folds in here, some shadows. Okay, let's make a dot. A little bit of a dot over there. Let's get that off. All right, I am going to say that this little guy is done. Let's take this off of there. This, here. Okay, I said I was done. I'm done. Wait, I just want a little. This is one of those times where you say, yo, okay, stop working it, Joe. Easy as heck. There we go. Now I'd be happy. Okay. I think we could be done here. So that's our tissue. All right. Let's come back over so we can talk about it. Okay. This, I have to say, it's one of the funnest things I've done in my life. I had just so been anticipating it. And I was sometimes when you anticipate something so much, you're like, when you're finally doing it, you're not sure. It's all like, but this was as much fun as you thought it was going to be. Okay. All right. I want to say thank you to Bethany and all the other fun people at the Drake Council on Aging. They're still, the building's still not open, but I think they are making alternate plans to meet somewhere else soon. Okay, so stay in touch with them, because while they're getting the building ready for us to make a re-entry, right, we're going to be meeting somewhere else. They'll let us know when they're ready to do that. But the cool folks there have been doing this all through the pandemic. We have been doing these tutorials. They've also been meeting outside when it's okay to do so, and doing yoga classes and all kinds of stuff, serving breakfast. So, and the staff has been in the building working, and still services are still available if you need them. So if you need anything at all, call them. They're absolutely people-oriented and they care. Okay, so I am going to say night, because it's the only time my house is quiet. So I'm going to say good night for now, and I'll see you next time, because we have another tutorial coming, and they're fun to do. And when we are able to meet in person, which a lot of places are already, we're not quite yet, but we will. And we have been meeting for art outside. Okay, so call the center if you're interested in doing that. We've been meeting on Friday mornings, 11 to 12:30 in the afternoon. We've been meeting and doing art class, and people are kind of doing their own thing, and I'm just trying to help them do their own thing. And then, like I said, eventually we'll be able to meet inside. I think there are arrangements being made for us to do that. Okay, so until next time, my friends, be legendary and paint a lot. And if you need any help, Jonissa, Joanisa @Comcast.net, or you can call me 978-807-7608 and say, yo, Joan, how do I do this? And where do I get the tutorials and all that good stuff? All right, or call the center because they know too. All right, until next time, be awesome, be legendary, and have an amazing, amazing day. All right, I will say bye for now.